Anti-oil activists have become increasingly more of a public nuisance, all in an effort to cool the planet. They paint over windows. They paint over paintings. They interrupt sporting events and block people on their way to work. These people must have the most flexible work schedules ever, because how else would they have seemingly endless amounts of time to disturb everyone else's busy lives? Unless this is yet another example of unemployed behaviors. And just because these real-life background characters have nothing better to do doesn't mean the general public have time for their unemployed activities, as this motorcyclist has had enough. This old man refuses to spend his last years waiting behind stupidity. And eventually people begin pouring milk all over the activists.
Romans, the lot of you. Have that.
Now this isn't to be mistaken with the other activists that pour out milk to save the planet.
Top solidarity companies are responsible for the majority of the emissions.
But it really makes you wonder, it was only a matter of time before these privileged activists started to clash with each other, because for some reason, law enforcement has recently seen uselessness as a protected class, as the climate activists now protest the Pride movement. And although they appear to be dressed the same, the parade goers seem to be irate. As the activist groups say they demanded the Pride organizations condemned oil and gas licenses, and when they refused to bend to their demands, they decided to protest the Coca-Cola vehicle at their parade, accusing them of pink-washing themselves. I, for one, just find it insane that these groups are becoming so large they're actually fracturing from inside themselves, because I honestly don't understand how the fight for gender change now requires the support for climate change. But apparently these two groups overlap more than you think, as the anti-oil activists have implemented getting naked in their protests for some time now. And after the Pride movement began riding bikes around naked to support their cause, now the climate activists have also began riding bikes around naked. For one, I don't understand how bicycles and nudity prove anything, but the more insane part about society today is both of these demonstrations involved kids. But apparently in Washington, the police will not arrest anybody involved in their climate change bike ride. And at the Pride rides, the police won't arrest anybody either.
Hi there, I was just looking to ask an officer a question. I'm having a hard time. Yesterday I seen a bunch of people naked in front of children and police officers.
Was that part of the Pride, you mean? Was that on the weekend?
Yeah, it was at the Pride parade.
Yeah, so that's always the issue then each year.
Oh, so like it's kind of like it's okay for when it's at the Pride parade, but not in other situations, obviously?
Exactly, I would say so.
So apparently in 2023, heinous crimes can be committed as long as they take place in the name of one of their various liberal movements. But as these things typically do, they come around full circle, as two of the naked bicyclists got hit with a pipe, where they began investigating whether this incident was hate-related, only to find that it was likely just a random attack, as the guy was a homeless person that had been held in custody for 7 violent felonies just that month, with 28 convictions overall. And sadly, this will come down to the hierarchy of the Oppression Olympics in Portland, because it looks like the homeless guy was able to walk free after several similar crimes in a hyper-left area like Oregon. But the one thing that'll probably lock him up is an attack on someone that currently outranks him in their current liberal tier chart. And similarly, these climate activists seem to get police protection when they're just bullying random people on the street trying to get to work. But I honestly don't know what happens when the oil activists protest Pride. As on one side, you have a movement sponsored by big banks and political interests, and on the other side, you have a movement sponsored by big banks and political interests. Because let's be clear, there's a reason they always seem to protest the average person just going on about their day, meanwhile steering clear of protesting their leaders aboard their private planes, or billionaires buying their environment-suffocating super yachts. Because I see these climate activists as seemingly young, capable adults.
The government's inaction on climate change is a death sentence to us all.
They're mad at oil, but won't address the environmental problems with the alternatives.
We've already put on 1,500 gallons of water on this and it's still going.
And this will burn for days.
Or how some of these electric vehicles are basically totaled once their battery goes bad. I'll just never understand the learned helplessness from these so-called activists. She seems well-spoken enough to get into a college and has enough free time to study science or engineering. So if this was truly about the environment, wouldn't their time be better spent trying to discover a way to make a more sustainable life? Why is their solution always begging their mommy and daddy government to fix the problem by stripping some rights away from me? This type of slacktivism is something I expect from high schoolers, not full-on adults. But it does kind of make sense when their role models like Greta are being used like characters in the Marvel universe, making cameo appearances in their other liberal franchises. And that's what this comes down to. I think all of these people mean well, they're just horribly misguided in their efforts. Like the animal rights activist PETA, now turning their attention to protecting the rights of digital animals.
This dog has been chained outside in the cold for ages. All dogs deserve loving homes and warm couches, even if they're 60 feet tall. Ask Sony to create a PETA mode so players can get past Garm without hurting him.
And I thought this was fake, but no, it's on their website, where apparently they also offer awards to video games that depict the dangers that homeless cats face outdoors. So I never want to be condescending to people that simply hold different values than me. But now whenever I see these die-hard activist types, I just see a deeply unsatisfied person. Because simply put, nobody achieving their original career goals, or just is genuinely psyched for anything going on in their life, has the time or the drive to think, you know who needs my help? Underprivileged video game dogs. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then check out my video on what really happens when liberalism meets a very scary reality.